sign-up table in the foyer.
There's a video greeting from Jesse.
Oh, there's a video greeting. Could we watch that right now? Oh, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, gotcha, yeah.
Hi, my name is Jessie North, and I'm the author of Cultivating Holy Beauty, one of the fastest growing women's authentic discipleship curriculums in the United States, and quickly going around the world. I wanted to share this verse with you as I invite you to come to this surrender event. Psalm 34:8 says, "Taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him." Has someone ever shared their favorite food with you and they've tried to explain what it tasted like, what the ingredients were, and or maybe you've tried to explain that to someone and then you just wish that you could have them over and prepare it for them so they could taste and see how good it is. For me, that's what these surrender events are about. It's the essence and the beauty of discipleship. And so when we come together at these events, we talk about the fruit of the Spirit, the fruit of our spirit, and the importance of surrendering to the Lord, and the beauty of knowing Him well enough and trusting Him in those moments of surrender, when you have a lot of hurt, when you have a lot of anger. And so I would love for you to join me for this surrender event, so that we can have a meal together, a spiritual meal together, so that I can help you taste and see how good walking deeply with the Lord is. And maybe you're already walking deeper with the Lord, and that is wonderful. But as my husband says, there are untapped continents of God's love waiting for us to discover. And so that's what Cultivating Holy Beauty is about. That's what discipleship is about, is learning to be a Jesus follower, loving Him enough to obey the commands. But we can't obey those commands if we don't know those commands. And so we learn those by spending time in the Word with the Holy Spirit in private. So I hope you join me for this event. I'm so looking forward to meeting you. See you soon.
And there's a table in the foyer so you can get signed up for that. Anytime there's a fee attached, if you don't have it or the person you're trying to invite doesn't have it, don't let that stop you. Just let us know. But there are costs involved in hosting these things, and so you'll find out about all that out there at the table. Missions fair is coming up for our big night. There's a flyer in the bulletin about that as well. It's going to be a good time. Missions fair. Yeah, we love a fair. I love corn dogs, funnel cake, and a merry-go-round. I don't know if we'll have any of those, but that's my favorite part of the fair. I want to introduce Peter to you. Peter, come stand with you. Jeff, you bring him with you if you would. Now, Peter, I apologize. I can't pronounce your last name. Njeru. Well, that was easy. Why did they spell it Njeru? Because that's how a Kenyan would bring that into English. And Peter's experience in coming to Christ was as a Kenyan national. And you know Christ as your Lord and Savior. And you've been baptized as a believer. He was greeting at the doors this morning, and we figured out that maybe he'd like to join with us as well. Now, Peter's wife is Mary. Mary's a little under the weather, so we're going to allow her to join today by proxy on your profession. Is she a Christian woman?
Yes.
Good. And baptized. Excellent. Excellent. I won't ask other questions because I want you to be able to go home safe. We'll get to know Mary in the days ahead. Josh, bring Gracie up here. Gracie, come on up. Yes, Mom, come on. Yeah. Now, they had this beautiful chance at their house to culminate their heart's desire that their daughter would become a believer. And any of us who are parents know that prayer that we put before the Lord before they're even saved, and then we have this celebration. I'm going to ask you, and you can say yes. Did you pray and ask Jesus to come in your heart and forgive your sins? Yes. And would you like to be baptized as a believer? All right, we're going to work on that. We're going to ask you to do a little bit of Bible study so that you remember this time well in your life. But we celebrate with y'all today this decision in Gracie's life. If you celebrate with these folks, would you say amen? Amen. Very good, very good. Now, I'm going to invite y'all to be seated because we're going to do things a little bit differently here. we're supposed to be going into a church conversation about a building at 11 o'clock. I anticipated that we'd have a little bit of a break, okay? We've at least got to take a stretch, and some of y'all need to make a bathroom run. I get that. And so I'm just going to call it and say we're going to take a 5-minute break. All right. There's restrooms in the choir room. There's restrooms that direction. You can grab a drink of water if you need to. And we'll be back in here in 5 minutes. Some of you may not even leave, depending on how you're feeling about that. But I know some of y'all need a polite stretch break. So we're going to do that right now. And when that clock says 11:06, we will have a presentation from our building committee. Thank you. God bless you.
Right about there. I need blue mic sitting about the same there. That empty mic stand, just put dead center. And then, hey, flip it on. I need to put this right about here for you, huh?
Don, I think we're going to do everything from the pulpit.
Hey, yeah. Hey, it's triple A or double A.
You're going to run security on the microphones and elbow people away if they try and crowd in. All right?
Test, test. Test, test. That's good. But I can't look like that big of a bum. That's the problem. Test, test. Test, test. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Check, 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 check. How are y'all? Is that close enough? In case you had to yell? Trouble side on this.
Testing, 1, 2. Testing, testing. There we go. All right. Folks, if you would allow your attention to be given up this direction, we're still the church. We're still Christian people. We still are looking towards God and each other for the incubation of possibilities. And I'd say that whether you're confident of the future and secure about the future, God knows the future, and we don't. We ask our building committee to come sit down here. So if you're on the building committee but you're not down here, we need you all to come join this this posse right down here. I don't know if you're in the firing squad or if you're the, whatever that, so anyway. Just come sit on the edge of the volcano. We're going to kick one of you into the volcano because, no, all right. So that's who's together down here. Dickie King, we'll allow Don to make the introduction. I know we preached, I know we prayed. I'm pretty sure that during this 11 o'clock time, somebody has slipped in for church not knowing that we were doing something different today. If you are in that group, we are still the church and this is still Christian. But what we're talking about today is a phase 2 to go with our phase 1. And we were worshiping in the last hour. My apology to anybody who just walked in here looking for good church. We'll be back to normal next week. But let's go to the Lord in prayer right now. And Don is going to try to the best of his ability to represent a lot of facts here. And it's not easy to stand up in front of y'all. And I make it look so easy, Don. I know. I want to pray for you right now. Father God, we ask that you be evident and thoughtful in us. Father, that you show us how you can interact in us in a way other than singing or preaching. That we would be affirmed, oh Lord, in your presence today, that we are your church. And that as your people, we love each other and have a holy respect for you in each other. And I lift up Don right now that you'd help him to articulate so much in his mind. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
First of all, we need to establish some ground rules for this meeting. We are just the messengers. Remember the rule, we do not kill the messenger, okay? With that thought in mind, let me introduce you to your building committee members. If they will stand when I call your name. As obviously I'm Don High, the chair. Tad Dorrell is not here today. He is out with some family issues he's taking care of. Nan Lathrop is the official scribe and secretary, keeps us in order. Virginia Cloud, Chris Diem, Tricia Ratliff. Yeah. Dan Jackson, Bob Bishop, and Dickie King is out of town, but he sends you his love also. We actually have one more unofficial member that we drafted during our process, and that is a gentleman named Michael Mars. He's the architect that we have been working with, and I'll talk more about him later. Mike is not here this morning. A little over a year ago, you voted to form a building committee. We were assigned a mission of make a recommendation for a Family Life Center. The recommendation or mission came with pretty much a blank canvas, no direction, no information. So we decided, how do we figure out what a Family Life Center is? We took a two-step approach to that. First, we did a site survey. There's several churches in the community or local area have Family Life Centers. We went to visit those. Very, very beneficial tours that we took. We had the opportunity to see what they built, why did you build this, and most important, what would you do different if you could do it over again so that we didn't make the same mistakes that possibly they made. We saw from one extreme to the other. We saw one that was so nice we wouldn't let the pastor go look at it because he might want to move. We didn't come up with something that great, but we hope we came up with something that's functional and that will meet your needs. Speaking of needs, the second part of that process to determine what should our Family Life Center be was a survey that we put together. The committee come up with a bunch of questions. Survey was sent out to you an email with a link to go online. We were pretty pleased with the response. Those that were not allowed or capable of getting it online, we actually had hard copies printed up for you so you could come and get those. And it really turned out quite pretty, that 26 pages worth of information here. And that survey ended up revealing, when we got it back, we got 174 responses. In talking to the pastor and the staff, we found out this is a very good response to surveys that the church put out. So we were pleased with that. The other thing that was exciting to us, we had a real good representation across the spectrum, from seniors down to the adults with children. Everyone had their input in there, and I think that was wonderful. It was very helpful to us. 43%, I believe it was. Yeah, 43% of the church members responded. That possibly might be a little bit different, because if you take the ones that you would consider that's going to be actively involved if a building is built versus all of the total church members, the response is probably much higher than that of the people that's really going to be involved in it. One of the interesting things about that, we found that nearly 62% were regular givers, tithers. We felt that was very important. One of the other things that we thought was important was almost 17% said they're not involved in any of the ministries at the church. Hopefully, what we can come up with in the Family Life Center may be able to create some ministry opportunities that those people get involved with. So, with that in mind, we volunteered Bob Bishop and Chris Diem to take all of the responses, organize those, consolidate them, prioritize them, and come back to the committee with information that we felt was usable. They came back with our top 4 needs is what the responses revealed. Tim, if you change to the next slide, please. This is what you told us was your priorities and you felt was needed in the facility. The first, by far, a large fellowship area. That fellowship area obviously would have a full kitchen, be able to take and meet the needs of the entire congregation at once. Like Randy is talking about, the reason we don't get together is because we don't have a place. This should give us that place. The next thing was youth worship area. And now we have a youth department now, and if you've been back there, you'll know that some of those rooms are very small. The other thing that you'll be aware of if you talk to the youth minister, and one of the things as part of our survey, we did talk with all of the staff ministers. What ministries would you be doing in this building? What does this building need to support for you? Well, for the youth, if you go back on Sunday morning, the numbers may not be that large. Come up here on Wednesday night when they have their freebie Wednesday and their get-together, they have a large number. They need room for that activities. You asked for indoor activities. If you were up here working with Vacation Bible School people this summer, you would be a cheerleader for an indoor activity center that was conditioned space. Classroom space. Now this one you say, well, we don't need more classrooms. Before Tim McCowan left, one of the things that he did share with the committee, he has adult classes that are growing and need larger classrooms, but because they're not available, his assignment priority was the class that has the largest number of people in it gets the largest classrooms, and they work down. The larger classrooms would give the staff some freedom and a lot more flexibility in how they manage the education space as far as those groups. Also allows those rooms to be used for a lot of different activities too. Besides those top 4 things that you told us you needed, you also gave us a lot of recommendations, and we appreciate that. Tim, the next slide, please. There was 91 ideas and suggestions, and unfortunately, we could not incorporate all the suggestions The swimming pool didn't make it, the sauna didn't make it. And the one that I was most upset about was the indoor shooting range was left out. But they were great ideas. We did try to use as many of those as possible. What you did tell us is you wanted a facility that was from a facility large enough for fellowship gatherings to multifunction indoor activities and in classrooms. And that the building should be able to not only support but expand the things that we're currently doing, but also provide activities for the community center to support. So what would those be? Additional ministries, Awanas, a lot of the activities around our community groups have to look around and find venues where they can have activities. This would actually provide something like that should the church decide that we want to open it up for something like that. Tim, if you'll go to the next one, please. First question we had was, where do we put this building on the campus? For those of you that were back in the early stages when we were planning this building, you'll remember that the architect did a master site plan. That master site plan said, here's your church. We put a building behind it, a gym. We put a building over on the south side, education space. The area you see there is the blue square. That's that grassy area right outside the south entrance door here next to the wall. That was identified as future education space. We actually looked at each of these and we evaluated the pros and cons. The area behind the church, the east side of the property, it's close for utility tie-ins. That was about all it had going for it. It has a lot of stormwater runoff problems that we'd have to deal with. It also is almost totally concealed. You don't see it when you drive by the street. The south side of the campus, over kind of where the baseball field is, we looked at that area also. It also has a lot of the stormwater runoff problems. And if you're familiar with the property, you realize the detention pond is just down behind that area. It's also farther for utility tie-ins. The area closest to the church here that we selected eliminates a lot of those problems, but one of the key concerns that we had was whether it's behind the church on the east side, south side of the property, they're standalone buildings. That means that you have to go from the building through the parking lot to get back to the main church. If you were outside in the middle of August, you know that's not pleasant. If you were in February, you know that's not a pleasant tour. And occasionally when it rains in Texas, that creates a problem also. But there's security issues and some safety issues, and by the selection that we made, we felt that we took care of those problems. That area is this grassy area right outside the door. And Bob, if you can kind of highlight that separation where the building ties together, we actually are proposing that those entrance doors are removed. The new building ties on at that location. And you'll notice that between the new building and the existing building, there's a separation there. That's two purpose. By separating the buildings, we do not have to build a firewall between the new building and the existing building. Once you exceed a certain square feet, there's some code requirements it's dealt with. That's the firewall. It's very expensive. We move the building over a minimum 15 feet. We eliminate that requirement. The other issue was Randy liked that area for a prayer garden, and you'll notice it you look at the posters out there, you'll see that listed there. We thought that was kind of cute, so we went ahead and put it on. It's free, and we're pretty sure that there's probably a couple of weeks in the spring, a couple of weeks in the fall, it'll be really nice to sit out there and pray. Or you may sit there in the summer and pray for cool weather. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work, okay? But the important thing is where we want to show you where it ties in and that separation there and why that separation. One of the things that was really important to me with this location, you remember I told you behind the building, if we built it there, that was almost totally concealed. You couldn't see the building. On the south side of the property, it's somewhat visible, but very limited. When we put that building here, it really stands out. It adds to the curb appeal, it balances the flow of the building, and if you look at it, the way that it's designed, as far as the ridge lines, we have designed that so that it complements the existing facility, and just so that you're all on the same location and property, the bottom of the page, that's W.S. Young Street, so you're looking from the street towards the church here. You'll notice that the choir room, the sanctuary, that bi-level roof line, we copied that, duplicated it for the new building over there, and when we get into that, you'll see how that's accomplished. But by putting their church or the new building next to the existing church, it just balanced the flow. It really makes an attractive facility. And the most important thing is all of the cars that drive up and down W.S. Young every day will be able to see this facility. I don't know about you guys, but I remember when we joined the church downtown, one of the reasons, or actually the main reason we joined that church, was because of the youth activities that they had available for our children that some of the other churches didn't. Young couples with children, they see a Family Life Center, it gets their attention. When we get visitors that they come in one of really probably two reasons. You invited them, or word of mouth, or they drove by and saw the church and went, oh, it's a nice looking church, I think I'll go there. This really is attractive, it gets your attention as you go by. If we can go to the next slide, please. Bob, you can kind of follow us through on this. The important thing on this that I want to show you is you saw in the other one how we tied the building together. And in that location, we really didn't change the traffic flow around the building. That all stayed the same. The pedestrian flow is what's important here. We have all of our worship space, activity space under one roof. Major concern for the security team. Really improves the security. We're able to secure the building. But by the way that the building is designed, the existing doors move down into the corridor to the new building. We had new entrance doors along the bottom there, you'll see that. And there's 2 doors for the existing building, 2 doors for the new Family Life Center. What that allows us to do is we can lock the doors to the new building, the corridor doors, leave those other doors open, and you have full access to the existing facility. The new building, if it's not needed, it's not used, it's secure. You can also reverse that. You can lock the entrance doors coming into this building, lock the corridor doors, open the Family Life Center, and you can use that facility without having anyone wandering around the main building here. So the security issue on that is greatly improved. Bob, if you'll take now and kind of follow us down, we're going to start at the restrooms and go down the classroom hallway. We can also take those the hallway, there's doors at each end. We can secure that hallway, all the classrooms, isolate that section from the large room, which we call the multi-purpose room. We can lock the multi-purpose room from the other. So we have the ability to section the building off and use pieces of it without having the whole building open. Or we can use the whole facility. It's really nice. If you were up here in Vacation Bible School and saw gridlock with all those little people standing in line waiting to get to the bathroom, this is one of the real nice improvements, is an extra bathroom. We increased the restroom facilities 50% by adding that on there. If we lock the hallway, the big multi-purpose room, we still have access for the restrooms to be used in case you're having a large function over here in this facility. The corridor being extended down through there, and you'll notice that's a little gathering area for you can fellowship. All of you know that when you try to leave here, if you're a member of the 9:45 worship, or if you're 11 o'clock worshiper, you're in the hallway, we're trying to get out, and we create really nice gridlock out there because our foyer is very cramped. This extends that down, gives us much more room out there and separation, so that relieves that problem. The classrooms, we've made multiple or various sizes. That gives the staff some flexibility in how they use those rooms, assign them, and they don't just have to be classrooms. Those can be activity rooms such as RAs, GAs. A lot of different activities can go on in there. If you come back in now to the large room, again, we call that a multi-purpose room. We'll show a little bit more shortly of what that's going to look like. But at the top of the page there, which would be the back of the room, that's a commercial grade kitchen. Over on the far right side of the room, those little squares you see, that's a storage area, chairs, other items that you need in there. Coming across the page right next to that, that is a walk-in pantry for storage. Along the back wall is your stoves, ovens, freezers, refrigerators. The center, you'll notice a table. That's your prep table. So if you're working there and then go to the stove, in front of that is another table, is a serving table. That is actually one of those where you have the heated water in to keep food warm. And in front of that is a narrow line. This was a key that the people that work with Freebie Wednesday were concerned with. They wanted to be able to see through the wall to the students out in the room while they were in doing their prep work in the kitchen. So you can have service through the wall like we do in our current facilities. The other thing is on large activities, you'll notice there's two doors going in. One on the entrance door, you can actually go in, go past the serving lines, get your meal, out the other side, out to sit down. It makes a smooth flow to keep that going. Then over on the left side of that room, that area you see there is storage areas, the wall cabinets, like what we have back there in the existing facilities. Next to that is a cleanup area where you have your dishwasher, all of those type things. Next to that, you'll see a restroom back there. That is put back so those individuals that's working in the kitchen area don't have to walk all the way up to the front of the building to get to a restroom. And you'll look at that and go, wow, that looks like a set of stairs next to the restroom. You're correct. That leads up to a mezzanine that's above the classrooms. That mezzanine is an equipment platform. All of the air conditioning HVAC equipment would be mounted up there. And you know those part of your air conditioner that's outside your house? That goes over in Randy's prayer garden over there. And at the end of the prayer garden area, that is secured off with a fence, so that equipment is secure. But that's what that stair is there. Now, if we go to the next slide, you say, one thing I wanted to point out before we go, I forgot. In the large room, Bob, if you'll hit the stage, there is a stage that's in the multipurpose room. You have speakers, the youth can have their band and do those things that youth do. The other thing that you'll notice off of the stage, that is a ramp access to it, also has access going back into two of the classrooms. Those classrooms can be used as green rooms if they need that for whatever presentation they're doing on the stage. But it gives you that function, that capability. Okay, now we'll go to that next slide. And you go, wow, that's a real impressive room there, that multi-purpose room. You notice we didn't call it a fellowship hall. We didn't call it a gym. It's a room that's built to serve a lot of different functions. Now, as a gym, and this will have retractable goals, so when it's not being used as a sports activity, the goals are retracted, they're out of sight for a cleaner line of sight. Excuse me. One of the main concerns that you asked for was a large fellowship area. This will give you seating for 600 people. And if we're having some other function other than a sit-down dinner, you also have, this only shows 800 seating. Actually can do a little bit more than that. We figured 800 is about as many as we're going to have. But that will give you an idea of the different functions. On the gym floor that's laid out as a basketball court, also has anchors in the floor so that you can anchor the nets for the volleyball. Some of you more mature people that's got into pickleball, we'll make them pickleballs. And this was not built with the intentions of different churches coming around like high school ball. I foresee this being the Andy Greer Sunday School class beating up on Bill Wolfter Sunday School class. We'll cut them no slack. You guys sit there and go, wow, that's nice. Now let me show you another one that's going to make you go, wow. If you go to the next slide, here's the cost of the facility. Yeah, it looked really good till we got up to this point, didn't it? This takes into consideration, and Mike Mars, the architect, put this proposed budget or estimated budget together for us. This has the site development activity, the building, and equipments. Thank you. That site development, that's all your underground utilities, getting all of that stuff in. Moving the gas lines, relocating a fire loop, adding a new sanitary trunk line to sewer. It has to run from this building all the way out to the street because the elevation of the sewer lines down in the existing kitchen is so shallow that we couldn't get the drainage, so it does require a new line. One of the things that I want to point out to you, if you look on the left side of the column there under building costs, I think it's about 8 line items down, you'll see a line that says EFS. EFS is a fancy name for stucco. The thing that was really important when we showed you the elevation view of the church, the profile, that is all uniform. The new building looks exactly like the existing building. We wanted this to look like it was in the beginning and not something that's been plastered on later on. And if you remember our old church downtown, you could kind of tell what year that building was built by looking at what the building looked like, because it was a smorgasbord of stuff. It ranged from 1948, I think, up to about 82 was the newest building. This is going to look like it was all done at one time, maintains the integrity of the building, the cosmetics of the building. The stonework that is above the block's base, that's very expensive. So what we've looked at doing is across the front of the building and down the long side on the south side of the property, that would be the same type stone that you have above the outside church. To cut a large part of the cost out across the back and that wall that comes up in Randy's prayer garden that you don't see, instead of doing that out of masonry, we do that out of stucco, which cut a significant amount of money out of the budget by doing that. One of the other things that you need to be aware of is if you look down onto the right lower grouping below the site costs, you'll see, let me put my glasses on so I can see what I'm saying. You'll see a laundry list of things there like general conditions, construction manager, that A/MEP, that's the architect, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineer, all of those fees are the guys that draw the construction documents. The geotech, the soil testing that you have to do, those are what those items list. One of the things that you don't see there is a general contractor, because what we're proposing is the way that they've been building these other and cutting a large cost out of the process, the church becomes the general contractor. And before you faint and worry about that, as a general contractor, I'm going to have a project manager that manages your project. He solicits the bids, they issue the contracts, they make sure that all the schedules are maintained. While we're still doing that, the church just assumes that overall responsibility. The architect that's going to be the project manager assumes that. He draws it, designs it, he bids it, and then the quality control is done not only by him, but by the team members. And you say, why would we do that? About 15% is a good reason. As a general contractor, it's what I did for quite a while, I can tell you, a general contractor has to pay that the project manager, same as we would. Pays the superintendent that's on site, same as we would. He also has all of his staff people, his secretaries, the cars, his trucks. All of that is an expense that's added on to it. His builder's risk insurance, his workers' comp. Conservatively, 10 to 15% by the time he marks his profit in there. And that's only if he keeps his profit around 6%. So that was the approach that we looked at when we decided to do this, because we can cut the cost down. The cost is large enough as is. You add another $500,000 onto it, we can take care of that. All of these facilities that they've been involved doing them, they've all been built on budget and on time. So we're very confident with it. This individual I'm talking about, as far as the architect, if you stop and look at what we were proposing there as far as that building, it kind of looks like maybe a middle school. You have classrooms, you have restrooms, and you have, looks like a big gym and kitchen. Mike Mars has done hundreds of these. He's worked with churches, and one of the things that I want you to know about Mike is, Mike said this is his ministry. He made a deal with the Lord. If you'll forgive me for all the bad things I've done, I'll do all of this work for your church people. He normally has not worked with churches our size because they will help get financing, the whole thing. But all the work we have done so far, and he's been working with us for almost a year now, coming to the meetings, making the drawings, revising the drawings, hasn't charged us a penny. So we were really delighted and fortunate to get Mike involved in the projects there. And we do have a lot of respect for his ability and his recommendations. So with all of that in mind, the building committee makes this a recommendation to you. We recommend that the church moves forward in the process of building a family life building in the following phases. The first phase is to conduct a fund drive to raise the money for the building. The cost of doing that fundraising and the method, whether it's professionals brought in or done in-house, we've done them both ways, that's to be a separate church vote. Upon successful completion of that fundraising drive, then the church would vote to engage the architect to do the construction drawings and documents. And I want to remind you, what you were looking at were concept drawings, not construction document drawings. So they don't have the level of detail. So you say, what's a successful campaign? The committee felt the minimum equal to one annual budget, which currently is about 1.6 million. So for us, we're saying that if we can raise 1.6 million in a building fund campaign, it's successful. If you want to do it much faster and make it 3 million, we'll move quickly. But success is based on that. That was our function. Assuming that we do that, then we vote to hire that individual for construction management, his documents. Once that's done and we have hard numbers back in, the last thing would be the church to vote to secure a construction loan and move forward with the groundbreaking for the new facility. So that is what we are asking you to consider. Randy is going to present a little bit of financial data to you here in just a moment. But before we move to that part, I'd like to open it up now for questions and answers. If you have questions, we may have answers. We may not.
John, please go to the microphone and get a question.
Yeah. We have in each of the aisles. So if you have a question, if you go to the microphone, state your name and the question, one of the team members will answer them. Go ahead, Sandy.
My name is Sandy Greer, and for those of us with old eyes, would you go back to the cost and just tell us the bottom line?
Oh, yes, ma'am. We'll go back.
It's hard to see.
Let me just read it to you off of that. The cost for the site work, and like I said, that site work is what I was talking about as far as developing the roads, what you tear up on asphalt, sidewalks, you replace all of that, relocating the loops, fire loops, underground utilities, the gas, such as that, it's $300,000. Oh, you just want the bottom line? Okay, bottom line is $3,812,000, and then below that, there's $225,000 we put in for an allowance. That's for like sound equipment, tables, chairs, such as different equipment, what we call furniture, fixture, and equipment inside that building. Gene?
Don, a two-part question here. One, what was the cost savings of the masonite on not the back of the building where we're doing the stucco? Because we talked about the integrity, the look of the building in the front, but the back will look different if we got stucco on one side and mason on the other side.
The front and total side, the high visibility areas, that's all uniform with what you see. The areas where we looked at changing it back to the stucco is the back side of the building and then the wall coming up into that closed-in area. Exact dollar cost I don't have, but I can get that information off the architect and get back to you with that, Gene.
Well, I mean, are we talking like a couple $100,000 or $250,000?
Yeah, you're probably looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of about $75,000.
Okay, thank you.
No, you've had your question.
Why was that considered just for the cost-saving purpose of changing the integrity of the back of the building?
It's strictly cost savings is all it was. If we had the money, and money's not an issue, obviously we'd like it uniform 100%. But that was just a way to try to get the money down. When I told Randy the number, he was sitting there looking at $2 million. When I told him 4, it took him 20 minutes to get his breath again. So that was the purpose, trying to get, it's like everything else. It's all driven by the budget.
I'm going to ask another question since I'm up here. Y'all came together with a $1.6 million our annual budget for this year. We currently have, I think, around $500,000 in the building fund. So are we looking at the 500 plus the 1.6, or are we looking at a new number of 1.1?
That 500,000 that's in there existing would be added to the 1.6 because the total project cost is going to be $4,037,000 off the estimate.
So
When you put that extra $225,000 equipment allowance in. So it goes into the pool, yes.
So the true budget then for us to make this mission would be 1.6 million fundraising? Not the
I
500,000.
can't really hear what you're saying. There's a big echo up here, and I'm just getting bits and pieces. Go ahead, Randy.
I don't want to jump in, but when we met and talked about money, so Don, we're sitting there, and again, my brain was around $2 million, and it's $4 million. It's like, can we play half-court basketball? How do you build half of it? And I know by experience that a successful fund drive, a good church like ours, could raise 1 times their annual giving in a 3-year pledge campaign. Right? I knew we had about $500,000. If we can get about $1.5 million, that gets us to halfway. Well, most reasonable people say, if you meet me in the middle, I can work with you. So what we're hoping to do with the pledges and the cash on hand, get to about halfway. And then the church would vote to borrow the other half. Now, these are all forward votes, right? If we raise more than $1.5 million, we're ahead, right? Less, we'll have to come to a meeting of the minds. The committee meets again, the stewardship gets involved, the deacons get involved. We said, okay, do we build less? Do we wait longer? What do we do in that event? Now, I've got a cell prepared that stewardship put together that tries to calculate interest rates and payments. But the problem with that is it's all fictional. What's the interest rate going to be next year? I don't know. And so, Gene, it could be 5, it could be 15. And that's why we have forward votes, is if the economy is catastrophic and all we've done is raise money, but we hadn't paid the architect yet, then that money's going to be in the building fund until, and so there's forward triggers on it. The vote that will be next Sunday, based on recommendation, is to conduct the fundraiser, which honestly is really for us to say, this is how quick we can get this done. And some people may enthusiastically help us speed it up, or it may be like, you know, a trip to the dentist where he says you got to come back for a root canal, and you got to come back for another one, and it could be slow. But that's the dollars will dictate that. There's a little girl here, and she is darling to me, and I've baptized her. And she had a question. It's a very generic question, but it's important that this. She may be the next generation leadership of this church. Would you ask your question? Hold on. Can we get that mic hot? You're going to love this question.
My name is Aaliyah.
Go ahead.
Why do we need the building?
So
Can you summarize that, Don? Why do we need the building?
that's probably the best question that's been asked. Why do we need this building? Building provides additional worship space, it provides activity space, and it provides an incentive for new people to come visit our church, join our church, and become active in our church. This allows us to expand those ministries that we have, and hopefully we can reach a lot more people better than what we're doing now. And if we don't, then we're wasting our time building this building. Any more questions? I know you guys are trying to beat the Methodists over to lunch. I'm good with that. But Randy has a slide now that gets into if we have to do a construction loan, how much do we pay? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm Bob Bauer. The last church, the last church that my wife and I attended, they built a family fellowship center like we're talking about. They used a contractor that allowed men of the church to do some of the finished work, even building the walls under their construction standards. Would that be a feasibility that we could look at? Where the men of the church would voluntarily do some of the labor, like hanging sheetrock,
Okay,
painting.
I think I understand your question now. I'm having a problem here. I don't know how Randy works up here. The sound on the echo is terrible. But yes, to answer your question, if there's people with construction skills that want to be involved, they certainly have that opportunity to be involved, by far, yeah.
I pastored a church that was in the country. We'll get to it in just a second, John. And there was an allowance in the budget just for the slab to be swept every Saturday at the end of the construction week. And there was a Sunday school group that said, we'd love to come sweep the slab, and it saved $100 a week for the duration of the thing. And if we use a general contractor, they don't want us on the job site. If we use a construction manager, he can regulate our access. That'll yet to be determined, Bob. We're not that far in. John Louch has a question. Oh, Kayla. Okay, all right then.
Go ahead.
Thank you for all of y'all's work that y'all have done. I know y'all have spent a lot of time in prayer, and I very much appreciate that. And I appreciate the Finance Committee giving us some ideas of what the debt service would look like. I'm wondering, though, if anyone has thought about what the operating cost of the church will increase by adding the third square footage to, in terms of not just O&M costs, but utilities and also the labor cost, janitorial staff, things like that.
Yes, that has been considered. We're building committee, we're not money people. That's why we're going to come and ask you for money. But there is a committee that deals with stewardship, and that increased cost for utilities, maintenance, and supervision is all part that they put together before they come and say, yeah, we agree with it. Go ahead and take this forward to the deacons to the church. That has been considered, though. Yes, sir.
Okay, can you hear me? All right, 2 questions. So the first one is there a possibility to change one of the classrooms nearest to the restroom into a shower facility in the event of a natural disaster like Winter Storm Uri? The church could help to house and feed and shelter those affected. Having showers would greatly improve the quality of life that we are helping to shelter.
To answer your question, yes, that was considered. One of the sites that we visited, they built showers in. Their intent was actually to take in refugees. That was not our intent. We purposely did not want to deal with showers in our building with youth and other people. So there's other ways to solve that problem. Bob Bishop can address that as far as the availability of provided showers.
Yes, sir. If we as a church decide to open up our, if we as a church decide to house refugees or displaced people, there's lots of mechanisms where you can lease a trailer, shower trailer, and put it out there, and for a one-time use, you know, and use it for that 2 months, whatever you have. Far cheaper than the liabilities that you get by having it in your church all the time. We looked at it, we thought hard about it, we prayed about it. But we figured this is the way to go, and if we have added dimensions that we want to add, we can lease equipment to come in to set up shower facilities, et cetera, if we so we're so inclined as a church.
And you had a second question, sir?
So hopefully, back on? Okay. So the top priority for the safety committee right now is the emplacement of limestone blocks around the church building to help protect it from vehicles accidentally hitting the building, possibly injuring lives. In the current design that you all have presented to the church, there is not enough setback from the walkways to the building's edge to emplace these important devices. How would you reconcile this?
If you don't mind, come up to this mic. I can't hear you back there, so if you guys did, when y'all answer that question. Chris, did you hear him? Go ahead.
So the question was the setback. If you can go back to the, Tim, if you want to go back to the design, kind of looking from W.S. Young.
Oh, you talking about from the main highway back?
No, from the sidewalks. They're talking about the safety and security one to put the limestone barriers around to prevent cars from coming in. So you talking about on where the parking is on the right side or on the front?
Well, basically, you're taking away all of the grassy areas around that walkway, which, based off of the discussions the safety team has had and property and space committees, we can't place the blocks on the sidewalks. They have to be placed on the grass. And the intent is, one, to prevent injury to people, but also damage to the building.
Oh, okay. I understand what you're talking about now. That's the first I've heard that property spaces even talked about putting blocks around. The blocks are used as a security. The Luby's incident downtown where they drove the car through the wall, you place a block that stops that. There have not been any mentions of that. There's setback requirements that building codes require and city codes require, and we've met that. Now, if you want those blocks there, they can still be done, because what you're going to have is where that building comes out, the existing parking lot and sidewalk is going to be torn up. The equipment building the building will tear that up. That gets rebuilt, and it can be built back 3 feet later, farther out than what these concept drawings show it. So you can still place blocks down there. So it can be done, yes. It just has to be something we're aware of when we go to design it. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Karen Dearbaum. We just recently did a construction project on our house for my in-laws who we thought might be coming to live with us. It was more than double the cost, and it took about 9 months longer than it should have, and we had connections. So I'm really concerned about labor shortages, supply shortages, and how that figures into this price tag.
Well, I guarantee you the figure will change, and what it costs today versus how long does it take to run your building fund campaign? Once you get to that point to move forward with construction drawings, that's 3 to 4 to 5 months to get to the street. You're talking 6-7 months before you're ready to come in and vote. We're moving forward with this. So you're looking at a year down the road minimum, and we all know these costs are not going to hold tight for a year. So yes, it's going to change. Is there a labor shortage? You bet. All the years that I was in construction, particularly here in Killeen, there is a terrible shortage of construction workers down I-35. We've known that for years. From San Antonio to Dallas, there's a shortage. You just deal with that. You plan ahead, and that's all taken care of in part of your construction schedule and your project manager and your superintendent on site. That's the way you handle that. Randy, we'll turn it over to you, sir.
I'd say, Karen, that we're definitely shooting at a moving target because we don't have a timeline until we know that we have funds to extend. We have nearly $600,000 in our church building fund. That's great. That's a great start. If you were buying a house and you had 25% of it, you go, well, that's a great down payment. But we're trying to figure out how to get this thing, into a reasonable cash flow position so that the payments are not astronomical. And the stewardship committee looked at those. And Jay Walker, he's our church treasurer. He's also a banker. He's faithful to the church. But you ask anybody with any integrity, and their answer has to be, I don't know. Because we don't know what the economy is doing. Fortunately, because this has 3 triggers before actually, the first trigger doesn't require us to be spending any money to raise the money except for fundraising money. So if we have a banquet, we have to pay for the banquet. If we print documents, we have to print for those. If we ask for expertise, we have to pay for the expertise. But we're not spending any of our money on preparatory documents for a building we'll never build. That happened in the history of this church once. They got the architect to draw it all, but then they didn't build it. And so $250,000 is not spent until we do the fundraiser, and then we pay for the architecture in a separate church vote. And so, Karen, we'll have a better idea then, but it'll be 9 months. We all hope that prices stabilize. I don't think anybody here is naive enough to think they're going to move backwards. Gas fluctuates, but everything else, once it goes up, it's just kind of up. I think that's just a reality. I'd say we're building a $2 million building, but it's costing $4 million. Right? And if I went and bought a new pickup, it ought to be a $50,000 pickup, but it's $100,000. These are just realities. And one of the things that I lament in my gut is that our building fund money is earning 2%, but inflation went up 8%. So our money's now less 6% if you do math. I mean, sitting on it's not helping, but spending it, chasing out. And so we're looking for a way forward that is reasonable to reasonable people. And that's my heart. The recommendation that's before us that we'll vote on next week is to conduct a fund drive. Right, that's what the recommendation is. Then we'll have better tallies of pledge cards and cash and say, okay, here it is. Now that takes months to do. When one of those leaders comes in, they say, we need an 18-month timeline. I said, can we do it in 9? They said, sure, we can do it in 9. But you don't just 3-month it. There's a lot of preparation that takes place. So we'll have a better knowledge of what's going on in the economy during that time as well. Joyce, you had a question. You waved at me. And instead of going to the microphone, I'll re-say it if you have a word. Yeah. Question of money. I know the stock market is not doing well. Is there a way to invest it so that we do better than 2%? We were doing nothing. We moved it to a very safe 2%. The more at risk, the more we can lose. The plan is not to buy lottery tickets. Oh, that might hit, but we probably would lose them, right? So that's where church money, we have a stewardship committee, and God bless them, they're looking at the same realities, and it's about to be budget preparation time. And I know that we're running down with time. I see Joyce and somebody over there also. Did Phyllis Bishop have her hand up a minute ago? Okay, I was hallucinating. Joyce, you say it, I'll say it to them.
I know we're going to be out of town next weekend. Others might be too. Is there a mail-in ballot, a proxy ballot, or anything?
Thank you. Our church constitution bylaws do not make a provision for mail-in ballots. You're just going to have to trust everybody else to get it done if you're not here. I love you, but that's the answer is with COVID and everything, we didn't come up with another legitimate way to have absentees. And honestly, the best way you vote for it is when I give you a pledge card is to put another 0 on it. Right? So you can do 10, but can you do 100? That's going to be the test. That's going to be the test. Baptists can vote with their hands. I used to say Baptists vote with their feet. If you're for it, you come. If you're not for it, you don't come. But this is going to be Baptists going to vote with their wallet when we get down there. Folks, Robert's Rules of Order, very sensible. Is there somebody here who would like to speak for it? Possibly this is my Peter. It says, it's about time, we've been waiting long enough. Let's do it. And then I'm going to ask if anybody wants to speak opposed to it, and then we're going to call the question. Okay? Anybody speaking for? I see your hand. Would you go to that microphone right there? And pull that microphone up. Matt's telling me that he can't jam it up anymore. It says it's on. Keep talking in it.
How about that?
It's on. Yes,
Okay,
please.
it's not going to stay it, but I can hold it up. Hi, my name's Whitney Gilbert. I work in the preschool department, and I have 2 kids that are in youth here. And when I moved here, I was like, why don't we have a family life center? Because all the Baptist churches I've ever been at have a family life center. And we run all the churches I've been to in the past, we've always run so much through that. And I've been here for 4 years, and seeing the kids playing outside and seeing all the things that we run, I think it's really neat because this gives us room for more growth, and this gives us more draw-in for more people. And like they said, we have a really big youth program that comes on Wednesday nights. My kids love to come on Wednesday nights because there's so many people. And they come and they play outside. They play outside so much. And I'm sitting here thinking, when the weather turns, where are they going to go? You know, when the weather turns, how are they going to maintain this Wednesday night awesome program that they have going? And I think it's really neat because we have the ability for them to come play indoors whenever the weather's bad. We have the ability to have meals and to have programs where we can feed people or where we can congregate as a whole. It's great to have bigger classrooms and more space so that we can have more programs and we can offer more things for the people that maybe we don't offer stuff for at the moment.
Thank you very much. That made my heart happy, and I hope the building committee felt affirmed by that. And is there somebody who your disposition is we shouldn't do this? This is not, and it'd be wrong for me to ask for a for comment and not invite somebody to say I'd like to speak in opposition. That's fine.
Y'all have done a wonderful job. And it's not that I think this is a bad idea. I'm questioning the timing, and I'm a little bit concerned we are getting more inward focused than outward. Why are we not going out in the community and ministering to the community? It's like almost the attitude of build it and they will come. We're down to 2 services. We've stopped meeting on Sundays. We still have a lot of vacancies here in our church as it is. I'm just wondering if the timing, I know this is something that we're forward thinking on, and I think that's great. I'm just a little bit concerned that as a church we're getting too concerned about buildings and not enough about ministry and ministering to our community and being just a light in our community. That's just my thought. But that's not to shortchange anything that you all have done. I think it's a beautiful presentation. That's just a little concern that I have.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. I need a motion to call the